In this New England fishing forecast video, we've got a live check-in from ICAST 2020, as well as a look at all the fishing going on here in New England, including striped bass, fluke, and much, much more. Let's check it out.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Hey there, Toby Lapinski for the New England edition of the Fisherman magazine with this week's web video fishing forecast. I'm coming to you live from ICAST 2020. Now, yes, it does look a little bit different than normal. I'm actually here in my bedroom office for the week. Normally, we'd be down in Orlando, Florida for ICAST, but ICAST 2020 has gone digital this year as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This has actually opened up a few things. You, the viewer, can actually check out a lot of the same stuff that we as media are able to see. Now, we can get in on certain product debuts, videos, interviews, and so on that you're not going to be able to access as the standard public viewer. But you can check out the link right now at thefisherman.com. We've got a news story posted there with the link. Give a look at some of the products I'm going to talk about now. So there's a bunch of other really cool stuff. And it has a much different feel this year. Of course, instead of walking the floor of ICAST down in Orlando, I've been sitting on back-to-back virtual product presentations and meetings through Facebook, Zoom, and other services. I've got a bunch of products that I've already seen and noted for coverage in the future, but with that said, I've come across some great new products which our viewers and subscribers here in the Northeast are sure to find useful going forward. First up, Penn has entered the low-profile saltwater reel market with two new products, adding to the Fathom and Squall lines, the Fathom and the Squall low-profile reel. Beginning with the Squall, coming into the retail price starting at $149 and available in 3 sizes, 9 models, left and right retrieves, and 2 different gear ratios. You're going to find some awesome features in this little powerhouse, including a full metal body, 6 stainless steel ball bearings, machine brass gears, and Penn's famous HT100 drag system, which actually on both lines of reels delivers up to 24 pounds of drag pressure. Next up, they also have on the low-profile reel series the Fathom. Now, this comes in a little bit higher. Retail price begins at $249, available in those same 9 models as the other one. But the Fathom builds upon the Squall platform and adds a full metal body and crank side plate, matched with a brass main gear and bearing-supported pinion off drivetrain with unparalleled power. Now, while the TIN-coated level wind system and synchronized drag and level wind system in the size 400 only give extra durability under high drag pressures. Again, they deliver, like I said before, 24 pounds of drag. Now, both these reels are going to be an awesome additions to your fluke, blackfish, striped bass, and general inshore and light offshore arsenals. Both these reels are shipping right now and should be available very soon. Now, another really cool item, which I can't wait to get my hands on, I saw this actually a couple of weeks ago, got a much better look at it this week, is the Plano Z Series tackle bag. It's available in 2 sizes, which fits the 3600 and the 3700 Plano stowaways. It's got a lot of applications just beyond storing your gear in those included stowaways. Of course, you can pack all your gear for a day on the water in there, but I was also looking at some other ideas. It's a waterproof base, rigid size. It allows it to stand up on its own when it's empty. Now, I see this as a great option for someone like me who needs a camera at the ready at all times when I'm on the water, but I need to have it somewhat covered and protected in between photo shoots. So, for instance, as you're drifting along, as we're fishing, you can throw your camera into the bag, latch the top. It's all waterproof, splash-proof. The sides, the material, everything is waterproof. So if a little spray or mist gets on it, your gear is still fine. Then when you're ready to go on and take those pictures of the big catch, you're all set. You pop it right out. Now again, 2 sizes. Retail is $69.99 for the 3600, $79.99 for the 3700, and these are going to be available sometime in the early to mid fall. Then next up, really, really cool product. Already hit the scene a couple of weeks ago. The Door Matadors by Z-Man Fishing. Now, it's not too often that you get to see a big company in the fishing industry like Z-Man make a lure geared specifically to a fishery that we have here in the Northeast, but that is just what Z-Man did with the Door Matadors. Now, as the name implies, this 6-inch curly tail, grub was designed for fluke fishing. It's built with 10x tough Elastec material, region-specific colors. So that's the stuff that we are looking for here in the Northeast, those specific Fluke colors. And it's impregnated with ProCure Flounder Pounder Super Gel for that added scent attraction. Now you can fish the Dormatadors in a bunch of different ways. Basically any way that you would fish a standard big curly tail jig that can be just straight on a jig head. You can tip a bucktail jig with it. You can set this up ahead of your Fluke jig or your sea bass jig or your striped bass jig as a teaser on a single hook. Of course, this will work great in the winter for cod. What's even better, the retail on the Dormatadors is just $4.99 for a 3-pack. They're available right now, as I said, in tackle shocks and big box stores, so give it a look. We got 2 more products for you. First up, I want to touch upon those from Yo-Zuri. Now, every year, Yo-Zuri comes out with some great new stuff at ICAST, and this go around, I got my hand on these ahead of time. They're adding to the Mag series, which includes, as I'm sure you know, the Mag Darter as well as the Mag Minnow. So we've got 2 new popper sizes. It's the Mag Popper. We've got the 5 1/4 inch, 1 3/4 ounce, and the 6 1/4 inch, 2 7/8 ounce. Now both of these are available in 8 different colors, popular bone, black purple, pearl redhead, black silver, sardine bronze, green mackerel, and solid yellow. And they come in rather really good price. The smaller one, $16.99 and $17.99 for the bigger one. You get a little closer shot there. Now if you see, they've got a real deep cup, so you can pop these things nice and hard. But what I look for more in a topwater lure is more of that zigzag. I'll take the splashing, but I like to be able to almost walk the dog, work it like a pencil popper, or work it like a spook. And that was something you're able to do on this. Now they've got a weight transfer system. You can hear it. It pops on the cast. You set it to the back cast. As soon as it hits the water, it slides forward and it rests properly. You pop it as you're going, and that thing walks back and forth. So these are on the way to tackle shops right now. It's a great addition to your topwater arsenal. Completely through wired. It's going to stand up to everything from inshore striped bass and bluefish to small bluefin offshore, a bit of everything that we've got up here. So another awesome product from Yo-Zuri. Last one from Shimano. Shimano always has some really good new stuff in store for us at ICAST, which is relevant to the Northeast. Now they cover a whole lot of stuff, but there's some stuff really comes from pro staffers, from guys at Shimano that are set here in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast states. On Monday, on YouTube and Facebook, Shimano had a product debut video come out. And for us specifically here, jumped out at me, Saragossa SW, which has been upgraded and updated. They also upgraded the Power Pro Offshore, where the offshore color used to go every, I think it was 10 meters or so, they would change colors. Well, they changed it for the offshore scene. Every 100 feet, it changes colors with 10-foot black noted increments in between, so you can totally dial in on the deep drop, on the long trolls, and it's available in the heavier pound test, 65 pound and up. They also upgraded or added the Travala PX jigging rods and the SP Orca flash boost, among other items. Now you can check out a full review I already did on the SP Orca Flash Boost right now at thefisherman.com, so I'm just going to cover the Saragossa SW. Now that is obviously a fan favorite, very popular here in the Northeast. It's a great series of reels. Well, they upgraded it now. For 2020, they added 2 new sizes. That's the 14,000 XG and the 18,000 HG. And all models in the SW lineup now feature the Infinity Drive System and X-Protect, which come down from the Stella line. So those are features that you could only previously get on Stella. Now you can get them in the Saragossa. And then add that in with Cold Forge Hagane gears for lasting durability and smoothness, and ultra durable Hagane body, and you've got an awesome reel ready to tackle anything you're going to encounter in the salt. Now these reels are getting ready to ship. They're going to be available sometime in August. And the Saragossa SW series has 8 models, retail price from $259.99 to $399.99. You can, of course, check them out at your local Shimano dealer or at Shimano.com. All right. Now we're going to jump into the reports. That was a lot to get through. We always like to pass along some of the new stuff when we encounter it at ICAST. Of course, normally I'd be walking the floor, find some interesting spot to hit you up. Instead, you get my bedroom, but that is where ICAST 2020 is taking place this year. All right, so moving on to the reports, into a somewhat abbreviated report, but of course, if I don't touch upon something that you're interested in, your area, what have you, you can always check the fishing reports complete. New England, Long Island, New York, Mid-Atlantic, every single week at thefisherman.com. So just because I don't touch upon it in a given week doesn't mean we don't have it covered. Head on over to thefisherman.com and you can get all of those all of those fishing reports every single week. They're posted live Monday afternoon. All right, so locally here, I've been getting some pretty good reports of striped bass up around the Boston area. It seems one of the better, more consistent spots for striped bass lately. Actually, the last couple of years, the Boston area has been very good, but specifically, the last 2 weeks or so, I've been getting some really consistent reports. I saw commercial striped bass up to 60 pounds pulled out of Boston waters, multiple 50s as well. Recreational side, plenty of teens on up to 40-pound plus class fish as well. Now, I got to remind you, keep in mind that Massachusetts has the circle hook requirement already in effect. That means any private angler. So if you're commercial fishing or if you're on for hire, you don't have to worry about the circle hook requirement. But if you're a private angler, shore or boat, and you're using any sort of bait with the exception of a tube and worm, live bait, dead bait, rig bait, what have you, you got to use the circle hook. Most likely it's going to go completely coast-wide for 2021, but right now for 2020, it's in effect for Massachusetts. And of course, also got to remind you, there's new regulations in effect for striped bass on the coast. It's a one fish limit, as it was before. However, we now have a slot limit for harvest. That means anything under 28 inches, you must release. Then from 28 to less than 35, you can keep it. Once it hits 35 inches and goes on up from there, it must be released. And of course, you've got to do your best on the low end or on the high end, any fish you're releasing, to revive it as quickly as possible for the best chance of survival. Because as you know from following along in the past, some of the biggest annual harvest is accounted to by the dead discards. Those are the fish that do not survive after they are released. Moving along into Rhode Island, bottom fishing remains about the same as what we had last week and what we've been having for the last couple of weeks. Black sea bass and porgies are everywhere. You can get them pretty easily, but fluke are a bit tougher to come by. Those who are really working the waters know what they're doing, like Captain Tony Garino of Booked Off Charter have been getting some better fish. He bagged an 11-pound fluke last week. He also had a 10.5 by one of his clients on the same boat. I was talking with Tony as I was working on an article for August on fluke fishing, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, he sent me over a picture of a nice 11-pounder he bagged, a 10.5 by one of his clients. The fish have been, sort of spread out. The Francis Fleet and 7Bs, they've been hitting fish off the South County beaches, and they've been getting fish out by Block Island. So they're kind of everywhere, but the big fish are nowhere specific. They're just kind of where they are. Striped bass fishing, also very good in Rhode Island, out around Block Island anyway. And I even got out to Block by boat last week myself. Just after shooting a video last week, I headed out for it. And while I was there, fishing was decent, albeit somewhat slow, I would say, by Block Island standards. We had 4 guys on the boat. We ended up with 6 fish from mid 30 pound to 42 pounds. Again, not bad a catch by any means, but according to Block Island standards, it's not great. But it wasn't so much what I was really bothered by the catching, but it was the blatant disregard still going on there for the 3-mile line. Now, in case you're unaware what this means, back in 1984, federal waters, those are waters from 3 miles out from the coastline on out, were designated as off-limits for both the possession and targeting of Atlantic striped bass by way of the Atlantic Striped Bass Conservation Act. So this basically enacted a protection zone outside of 3 miles from shore in the EEZ, exclusive economic zone for striped bass, and it meant that you couldn't target them, you couldn't possess them. It was just off limits for striped bass. Specifically, it's that second part, the targeting of striped bass in federal waters, that people either seem to ignore most of the time or claim they forget. You're not allowed to catch and release out there. You're not allowed to target striped bass. At times there was 3, maybe 4 of us legally fishing inside, and we found some fish. But I counted 15, 18, almost 20 boats at times out in those federal waters. Now, during the day, they might be able to get away with the excuse of going for sea bass or bluefish or what have you. But at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, there is no dedicated sea bass fishing. And not too many guys are heading all the way out there for a very slow bluefish outing. So they were just fishing illegally. Luckily for them, there was no enforcement on the night. But I will say there has been a lot of enforcement this year. RIDE and Coast Guard have been teaming up. They have been been busting people. There's been a lot of updates on the RIDEM's Facebook page as well as on their website. So guys are getting hit out there. They're getting pinched. And actually, I tackled this subject in my editor's log, getting really deep into it for August. So stay tuned for that. This is obviously something I take very seriously, even if some of the people out there do not. So give that a look. The August editor's log, I will touch upon that some more. And one more subject before I go, a little bit happier news. Back on the positives for striped bass. Got an email from Mark Alamina. Over the weekend, he touched base with me. He checks in every so often whenever he gets out. He was fishing the Western Sound with his son-in-law this weekend, Joe Gambella. Now, they were chunking off of Stanford, the area that Mark usually fishes, and he's still getting in some pretty consistent striped bass. He sent me a few pictures last week of some fish, but this time around, Joe had the big fish of the tide, 38-inch striped bass. They caught and released, because again, that is over the 35-inch slot limit. They were chunking bunker. When they caught and released the nice size striped bass. So it's actually pretty good news. I mean, he's fishing out off of Stanford, Western Sound. They've been getting consistent action on fish, so it's good for those of us to the east, where I've been fishing Eastern Sound. That's been a bit slower. There's still hope that there's some fish to potentially move down. We've had some waves of fish from time to time. Nothing really great. I got out last night, actually first time in a couple of days that I've been able to get out and hit the surf, and got into some decent bass, 20, 25 pound class. So there are fish to be had. Everybody I was talking to, though, however, surf or boat has been finding somewhat inconsistent action, but you know, it is what it is right now, and we'll make the best of it and hopefully get into a little better bite as the season goes along. All right, well, there you have it. Got a lot going on this week. Of course, all those ICAST 2020 updates. We'll have more for you next week. We'll have a full update on Best of Show, all the different prize categories, and complete coverage going forward at thefisherman.com, as well as in print in the Fisherman magazine. And of course, as always, if you plan to head out and fish this weekend, be sure to start off your trip by visiting thefisherman.com.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious English choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.